All right, item E. Gotta get this done. Receive an update on the results of the Crestmoor Neighborhood PG&E Pipeline Questionnaire and provide direction to staff for decommissioning of line 132.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Harry Burrows, and I'm the city's project manager for the Crestmoor Reconstruction Project. On April 24th, staff gave a presentation to the City Council on options for the abandonment of PG&E's line 132 through the Crestmoor neighborhood. At the conclusion of that presentation, staff was directed to survey the residents to garner their thoughts on the various options for the pipeline through the neighborhood. So staff developed a simple questionnaire that was sent to all 374 residents of the neighborhood. The three options and their impacts were described, and just to remind everyone, the options were, number one, to fill the pipeline with the cement slurry. The second was to remove the pipeline in its entirety throughout the neighborhood. And the third option was what we called a hybrid option, and that was to fill a majority of the pipeline with cement slurry, but to remove certain sections that were in areas that were least disruptive to the neighborhood. So the overall results of the survey, we received 169 surveys as of last week. Some more have trickled in since then, and I'll address those in a second. That represents about a 45% return rate of the surveys, which is pretty good. So neighborhood-wide, there was 79% of the respondents that chose to fill the pipe, with 10% removing the pipe and 11% optioning for the hybrid. We also took a look at a smaller sample of the folks just along the pipeline alignment, and that's what the chart on the right-hand side represents. And the results were fairly similar. 72% of those respondents chose the filling of the pipe option, with the removing 12% and 16% opted for the hybrid. Since last Thursday, when we published a staff report, we've received 7 additional surveys, 5 for filling, 1 each for the removal and 1 for the hybrid. So obviously there's a majority of the respondents preferred the filling of the pipe option. I think it's worth noting some of the comments that we received, multiple comments along similar lines. The most prevalent comment was, fill the pipe, we don't want any more disruption to the neighborhood, minimize the disruption if at all possible. There was another comment from several folks regarding choosing the least expensive option. Don't waste any more money up there on the PG&E pipeline. And while we don't want to waste anyone's money, I think it is worth pointing out that the cost of removal, filling, the abandonment in whatever fashion will be 100% borne by PG&E, not by the City of San Bruno. There were also several comments to do nothing. Why are we even considering filling the pipe? And again, we responded back to several of those respondents directly, and let them know that the current industry standards within the pipeline industry for abandonment of pipes, particularly within urban areas and streets, are to fill the pipe with something. Don't leave them empty. The concern is that they'll corrode in the future. The roadway or other material can get into it, create a sinkhole. It becomes a public safety issue. And lastly, some of the comments related to removing of the pipe were, remove the pipe. Yes, we've had a lot of disruption, but we can live with more disruption as long as that pipe's out of the ground. Some of the additional concerns that you, the City Council, raised on the 24th included questions regarding the composition of the pipe, not only the pipe that's 1956 pipe, but also the 1948 section of pipe that we talked about. And we posed that question back to PG&E. PG&E did give us a chemical composition of the metallurgy. There is no lead in that steel pipe. It's pretty standard high-strength carbon steel pipe. Another concern that was raised was related to minimizing the odors when the filling operations occurred. PG&E did submit a fairly substantial procedure that went above and beyond what they had done previously in the neighborhood. It involved, or will involve, additional odor mitigation measures, including deodorant tanks, double charcoal filters, and tenting of the excavations. The excavations themselves will be tented, and there will be filters on any gas or air that escapes into the excavation tent itself. So, if the filling of the pipe option is the chosen option, staff will coordinate with PG&E to proceed in this manner. I wanted to take a quick second just to talk about the current activity that many have seen up in the neighborhood during this past week. PG&E and their contractors have been doing potholing to locate the end of the 1948 pipe section. As we discussed last time, PG&E believes that that pipe is, at least the section of it is filled with some sort of liquid, water primarily. They are going to locate the end of the pipe, then in another operation come back with the odor mitigation procedures in place, open that pipe, take a sample of that liquid that's in the pipe, send it to a laboratory, and if no contaminants are found in that liquid, then they'll proceed with a filling operation. If contaminants are found, then they will be required to do a mitigation plan on how they're going to handle those contaminants and dispose of them, mitigate them. If the filling option, concrete filling of the 1956 pipe is chosen, we'll coordinate with PG&E to make sure that that pipe and the 1948 pipe get filled concurrently so we minimize the disruption to the neighborhood. So with that, that's my presentation.
Harry, two things. Is the composition of the 48 pipe and the 56, 58 pipe the same?
Yes.
Okay. And then what kind of outreach is going to occur before we start to see this filling going on?
Well, there will be a pretty substantial outreach that will be done, including obviously some direct mailers. We'll post it on our website, our Rebuild Crestmoor website, as well as we've been in discussion with PG&E, and we'll need to have more discussion to work out the details, but there will be some neighborhood meetings and other public meetings to make sure that everyone is well aware of what's going on.
All right. And when could this start, and when would it be contemplated to be finished?
Well, the filling, based upon the schedule that PG&E has given us previously, the duration of that overall project is about 3 weeks. Might be a further complication depending on what's encountered in the 1948 pipe. So if no contaminants are encountered in the 1948 pipe, that operation could start probably within 4 to 6 weeks would be my best guess. And it could be wrapped up in 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Any other questions of staff?
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
It was just on that, the sample that needs to be taken and tested, how long would that process take? So what, do we go out tomorrow, they take the sample, they get it off, it comes back? Is that a 2-week, 3-week, 1 month to have that analyzed?
Sampling of the liquid is probably less than a week process.
Okay. Thank you.
Harry, the whole section that gets filled in, obviously there's one end and then there's another. And I know there was a question as to how that connection would be handled. And just confirm that in the entire length there's nothing else that's intersecting or connecting to that pipe, that transmission pipe. It is just a clean, straight transmission pipe from one end to another.
Yeah, PG&E has told us that for the entire length of the pipe that's been decommissioned from the San Andreas station to the Healy station, that's been completely purged and is free of all gas.
No connections to anything else along the way.
And no connections to any live gas line.
Okay, and so there'll be some sort of major cap or something at each end?
Yeah, those caps have actually already been put in place, both on the section of pipe that's been cut as well as at each station on the stubs that were left out of the station to the line 132.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Through the chair,
Michael.
if I could. Harry, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understood was in the report that we got back from PG&E, there was a specification that was created when the pipe was ordered, but not necessarily anything that would indicate that what the composition of the actual pipe that was put in, meaning that there were some minimal acceptable levels of certain materials that would be allowed in the pipe, but we don't necessarily know what the full composition of that pipe was. How certain are we that the material, that the steel in the old pipe is the same as the one in the newer pipe?
Well, I guess, you know, we can never be 100% sure. All we can do is, you know, look at the specification of the pipe that the contractor was directed or bid to place in the ground in 1948 for PG&E, and, you know, hope that the actual pipe that went in the ground did meet that specification.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we also know that at the newer line 132 was supposed to be seamless, and in fact it wasn't. So it is taking something on faith there. Is there any just search of historical records that we could do that would indicate what standard composition of steel was in the same year that this was put in, and find out if there was any possibility that lead was put into those pipes as practice during that time? I guess now that it's the potholing is done and it's been capped, I don't think we can go in and take a section and do the same level of analysis that the NTSB did on the other pipe. But maybe just a search of some historical records might give us some indication if at least there was a potential for that pipe to be somewhat different. And I should acknowledge at PG&E that we do appreciate the fact that you went and did the homework and provided us the report. I got to see the report, and it was very detailed, and I know that not all the records are available, and you did provide what you had, so I do appreciate that. When it comes time to do the testing of whatever material is in the older pipe, I would like to see just a description of what tests were done, and if those tests were specific to certain materials or if they're general and would uncover any potential chemicals that might be in that water, just so that we can provide that level of reassurance to the residents. Okay. Thank you.
Through the chair, the only other comment I was going to make is I understand there's a lot of documentation to go through, a lot of analysis. Again, we've always said this is a road we haven't gone down. A lot of things we're learning for the first time. Is there anybody else that's assisting you or the staff in reviewing these and trying to analyze and, I'll use my term I like, the trust but verify?
Well, in terms of the metallurgical composition, I think one thing that we could do is the 1948 pipe. We know where one end of it is, up in Glenview. That could certainly, I think we could ask PG&E to, you know, cut off a piece of that, and that could be lab tested to verify its metallurgy. I think in terms of the laboratory testing of the liquid itself, we've been told by PG&E that will go to a lab and it will be tested full spectrum for, you know, everything. We can certainly, you know, independently test the liquid, or, you know, we can, you know, have an independent peer review done of those laboratory test results.
You know, I think that's probably a good idea. We've gone this far, God knows, in the last 20 plus months with testing and reports and investigations. So I think this is relatively small in the bigger picture of things, and I think we feel comfortable knowing everything we possibly could.
Yeah. The other thing that I will add is that, you know, staff, the city has hired the firm of IMS, who is a gas pipeline specialist. They not only helped out during the initial deactivation process, but they are continuing to assist staff in analyzing PG&E's proposal.
Okay.
I think, Mr. Mayor, that just to close this out, and I know PG&E representatives are here, but this is still a very sensitive issue. And when this project of filling the pipe comes out, and no matter what mitigation efforts you take, whatever, as long as everyone knows that there are still some sensitive people, residents out there, and cannot take anything for granted, even though that's your livelihood. you know, and so I would hope that, you know, you take those extra measures and, you know, and I know we're taking our extra measures to make sure that we understand what's going on also.
So I think it's safe to say, unless I have objections, that the council agrees unanimously with the residents. Let's get it filled and then provide the additional investigative information we want. Is that clear? All right. Thank you very much.